Hey everyone, Chris Stoltz coming at you today from the Museum of the Moving Image. And the reason we're here is because today is Jim Henson's birthday and they're having a special screening of Rowlf's appearances on the Jimmy Dean Show. So let's check it out. On the way to the museum, I spotted these ads for United Airlines featuring Oscar the Grouch, as well as ads for the Museum of the City of New York, which is hosting a new exhibition called 100 Years of the City in Art and Pop Culture, from Sesame Street to Beat Street. So that's something that's definitely on my radar to check out soon. But before we go to the screening, we're going to check out the Jim Henson exhibition, where we heard there's a few new puppets on display. I love this montage of clips highlighting the variety of Henson's projects. And since no one else is around, I'm going to show you pretty much the entire thing. Of course, the star of the attraction is, of course, the inflammable, the charismatic, the one and only Kermit the Frog. He's here waving, welcoming everyone to the exhibit as usual. And here we have Jim Henson's headband from the Muppet movie. Look at him performing Kermit right there. That is just amazing. Here's a whole bunch of Jim Henson's early drawings and sketches from over the years. In this cabinet, we have a whole bunch of various Muppets. We have a Snoth, we have characters from the Muppets, Musicians of Bremen, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, and more. Here is the Southern Colonel, made by Jim Henson for Southern bread commercials. Here is a behind-the-scenes photo of Jim Henson and Frank Oz performing the Southern Colonel on an active train track for one of the commercials. Here are the Java puppets, amazingly just made out of household objects. Here is a old star of Salmon Friends, Yorick. They have to keep him in this glass, otherwise he'd probably eat the entire exhibit. here are some early mail-away puppets featuring Wilkins and Wonkins. These were part of a Bramble Milk giveaway, and these were part of a Wilkins Coffee promotion. Here is a copy of a Wilkins Coffee print ad featuring Wilkins and Wonkins. The star of the day is Rowlf. We're here to see Rowlf's appearances on the Jimmy Dean Show, and here is a vintage Rowlf puppet by Ideal. And look at the box of this thing. The box is just exquisite. It gets this funky kind of shape to it. That is amazing. The one I have in my collection is almost as mint as that. I am just missing the box. And here he is on the Jimmy Dean Show. And right next to his appearances on the Jimmy Dean Show is Rowlf himself. Yes, there is a Rowlf puppet here on display. They also talk about how the character was formed and his early sketches. Here is a picture of him and Don Saline, who built the first Rowlf. This is just Rowlf's little corner of the world. And we mentioned new puppets were on display. Well, here they are. They are the Land of Gorge characters. So first up, we have King Plubus and Queen Pietra. Look at these puppets. They are just amazing. Of course, if you're not familiar with the Land of Gorge, these characters were created for sketches on the first season of SNL, or Saturday Night Live. They also have a few archival pieces here showing how the characters were created. And one cabinet over, they have the rest of the Land of Gorge gang, including Wiz, Vaz, Scred, and even the mighty Favog himself. Here we have a whole bunch of Jim Henson's experimental films. We see his storyboards. We see all kinds of great stuff. This was a special called The Cube he did in the 60s about a guy trapped in, what else? A cube. It's pretty wild. I actually haven't seen it all the way through. It's a little, it's different, let's just say that. But here it's just some really cool stuff that Jim Henson was doing in the 60s, including a whole psychedelic club called Silica.
Telling you memories of my family. That's Laura, my wife. Those are our kids. Hey, here's a nice memory. This was a picnic we went on last fall. Kids were playing, and Laura and I just sat and talked.
Of course, more mainstream and much more recognizable is Sesame Street, and there's a whole section here of Sesame Street. The puppets are created, the early pitch meeting for the show, some of the cast with the early puppets. I love how orange Oscar is in the beginning. Apparently he slept in some moss or something, and that's how he got green. That's the canon story, but he's orange in the first season, and then he took a bog bath and became green like Kermit. Of course, sketches of the world famous Bert and Ernie, and then pictures of Don Saline physically building them. There's also some behind-the-scenes footage of Jim Henson, Frank Oz, and Richard Hunt performing the characters. Here you can see how Big Bird is performed with someone's hand way up in his head operating the beak, with his other hand operating one of Big Bird's wings. Here we have some sketches of Barkley the dog. And of course the puppets themselves. We have Prairie Dawn, Elmo, Cookie Monster, and who is this big guy over here? Of course, none other than Big Bird himself. I also really enjoy the little touches this museum has, like Kevin Clash's headset and Fran Brill's boots. Of course, Fran Brill needed those boots to give her the height required to make her characters the same height, or at least close enough in height to the other characters so they all appeared together at the same time. Here we see Jim Henson directing the King of 8 short and the Princess of 8 puppet. There's also some storyboards for the King of 8 and the Queen of 6. Here we see just a few of the many Sesame Street products released over the years, including the very classic Sesame Street book, the monster at the end of this book, and the Sesame Street Together book. We also see puppets of Ernie and Roosevelt Franklin, and Big Bird's walking letter set. This Muppet character book was given out to licensees of the Sesame Street characters to make sure that they all looked correct when put into licensed products. In this area, you can create your own anything Muppet. using a variety of hair, noses, eyes, and other accessories. Next up is, of course, the Muppet Show Muppets, where the Muppets characters just blossomed and ballooned all over the world. Here we have Nigel, Statler, and Waldorf, who are perpetually stuck watching every single episode of the Muppet Show in its entirety at the same time. We also have the Swedish Chef, the Kuzbanians, including the Kuzbanian kids, their Kuzbanian parents that did the Galileo hoop hoop in order to, birth them. I also spotted this Swedish language instruction tape on loan from the Jim Henson Company, which I'm guessing is how the Swedish Chef learned his Swedish. We have some shots of the Electric Mayhem being performed, as well as concept art for Dr. Teeth, Animal's outfit, Janice's outfit and her guitar, as well as Zoot. As you can see, sax is his axe. Here is one of my favorite pieces in the entire exhibit. It is the Muppet Show sign. Of course, this is what we call the Muppet Show, and Gonzo would come out of here and do something crazy, like blow up something, blow a horn, something would happen in that O. That is a very famous O, so gotta love the Muppet Show sign. Here we see an original concept art for Fozzie Bear, the storyboards for the classic opening featuring Kermit saying it's time to get things started, and how the entire thing would pan out, revealing the rest of the characters, and then focusing in on that very classic O. Here are a few fan letters sent in over the years. Here we have Miss Piggy in her wedding dress from the Muppets Take Manhattan. The mock-up and layout for how the wedding scene at the end of the Muppets Take Manhattan would actually come about and which characters would be where. I love how they use the Schleck PVC figures to figure out just somewhat where the characters would be. And of course, there you see the puppeteers down below, Jim, Frank, and the gang, that's where they would be. Just slightly out of view for the camera, which is the same way for all the puppeteers for the whole scene. The Muppet movie, the one that started it all, the one that really showed the Muppets could be out in the real world and could be more entertaining than humanly possible. Moving on, we have the immersive worlds of Fraggle Rock, the Dark Crystal, and Labyrinth. Here we have Uncle Traveling Matt, his nephew Gobo, and one of my all-time favorite Muppets, Cantus. And there's Jim himself talking about the world of Fraggle Rock. Here we see concept art for the Fraggles, the Doozers, and the Gorgs, as well as some actual Doozer puppets. I love how small they are, and it's amazing how they're operated. They're operated by these controls down the bottom here because someone's hand would physically be too big to get into their heads. Now we come down to the world of Labyrinth. I love this illustration of the old man with the talking hat. You know, it's so stimulating being his hat, but wow, that is just so cool to see the detail in the drawing and the concept art. Look, there's a little guy like popping out over here. Probably a goblin. There's a fish. I mean, I don't even know. Lou Zealand isn't even in that movie. He should get residuals if there's a fish in that movie and he's not in it. I don't know what that's about, but you see little goblins hiding all over the place. That is such a cool painting. I wonder what this goblin bomb is still doing here because I just fired him. If you've ever seen Labyrinth, you would get that joke. And if you haven't seen Labyrinth, watch it now, or at least after this video, so you will get that joke. Here we go. One of my favorite parts of the whole exhibit. Shh, be quiet. See, Jen, that's what happens when you're not prepared for a fizz gig. And speaking of Gelflings, Jen and Kira, here are concept art for Jen and Kira, as well as the mechanisms inside their heads and the radio-controlled devices that operate them. Here's some concept art for the world of the Dark Crystal, otherwise known as Thra. Here we see different concept art for the Gartham and how they're operated, as well as concept art for the Skeksis, and an actual Skeksis itself. I just love the detailing in the costumes. They are just incredible. The Mystics move really slow in this movie, so maybe they need a hand moving a little quicker, because these are the hands of the Mystics and how they're operating. You can see the performer would have his hand down full further, and these little finger extensions would create the illusion of a much larger hand. And here we see Jareth and Sarah's outfits from Labyrinth, including the star of Labyrinth, Jareth's codpiece, of course. Here we see all the projects Jim was working on in the months and years leading up to his untimely death, including Dog City, the Jim Henson Hour, Song of the Cloud Forest, and more, including experiments with digital puppetry. The Henson Performance Control System, which was used in the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the series Dinosaurs. Also of note, the museum shows a different episode of The Muppet Show every week. And this week, fans were treated to a behind-the-scenes look at The Muppet Show and more. And it's all screened in this really wild Egyptian-themed screening room. What a cool place to watch The Muppet Show. Let's take a look around. Make sure you grab your mummy. The corridors feature a lot of movie-themed hieroglyphics, such as caricatures of the Marx Brothers and other old-time Hollywood stars. Complete with a concession stand. Too bad you can't actually buy anything from it though. They also have an entire separate section dedicated to just the puppets and characters from the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, including maquettes, skeksis, the world of the Dark Crystal wouldn't be complete without gelflings, including the Almaldra, and Fizzgigs too. Okay, now on to the screening, which began with Muppet fan and Kermit's banjo consultant, Lucas Ross, playing a medley of Henson tunes. We were then treated to a compilation put together by Henson Legacy President Craig Shemin of newly restored clips of Rowlf on The Jimmy Dean Show. Rowlf appeared in 85 of the 86 episodes from 1963 to 1966. The only episode he didn't appear in was the first episode, which featured a guest appearance by fellow ABC Network star Fred Flintstone. Today, Jimmy Dean is known more for his sausage brand than as a country music star or for his variety show. But his widely popular show was where Rowlf the dog became the first national Muppet star, and the clips we saw proved why. They were just as funny now as they were 60 years ago. It was amazing to see these clips hold up so well as they were performed and sung live without any pre-recorded tracks or without any retakes. After the screening, Lucas returned to serenade the crowd with a few more tunes on his banjo. Then myself and the other fans in attendance got to hang out and talk with Lucas, who, by the way, is a fan. So thank you again for watching. It was great hanging out with you and being able to show you around the exhibit. I also got to spend some time with Heather Henson, Tal Bennett, Dave Holteen Jr., John Popovich, and the crew from Tough Pigs. Of course, now here I am back in the museum after a long day in New York, so let me show you what I picked up. In the unlicensed category, fellow fan Richard Gomez was there handing out stickers of his just amazing Muppet caricatures. He literally handed me a bag and said, pick which ones you want. So in the bag I found stickers of the Java Muppets, which the original versions, as you saw, are on display in the museum, as well as Mana Mana, and of course, the two Snows. Now I bet you have that song in your head. Of course you do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. 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 Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. See? You do. Another unlicensed item was from another fan giving out stickers of the Electric Mayhem's bus. Of course, you know, Dr. Teeth is my favorite Muppet, so getting the Electric Mayhem bus in sticker form is just incredible. It's so like glittery. It's so shiny and psychedelic. It's awesome. Thank you so much. And she was even wearing sneakers that matched Fozzie's psychedelic Studebaker, which of course the Electric Mayhem painstakingly painted so that Kermit and Fozzie could avoid Doc Hopper in the Muppet movie. And this drawing by fellow fan Will Carroll, featuring Jim Henson reading the works of A.A. Milne to his creations. As for officially licensed items, I picked up this Bert and Ernie Salt and Pepper set put up by BioWorld. But it leaves me wondering, which one is salt and which one is pepper? Let's find out. So here we have Bert, who has 2 holes in the back, which I believe that means he is pepper. And we have Ernie with 3 holes in the back, which I believe that means he is salt. So those guessing that Bert was for pepper and Ernie was for salt, good job. I also picked up this giant water bottle featuring images of Kermit, Miss Piggy, and Animal, also recently put out by BioWorld. It's kind of fun. Even though it has just basic kind of stock images, it's still really cool and gives a sense of the chaos of the characters. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Please leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite item from this video was. Please be sure to follow us on all our social media channels, and I'll see you next time from the Muppet Stuff Museum.
Bravo! You like it that much? No, a friend of mine, Joe Bravo, he's sitting in the 3rd row. Bravo! Bravo! Up here!